You know your child better than any professional or any therapist that's going to come into your home. I'm going to talk about 5 things I wish I knew before receiving an autism diagnosis. So let's get right to it. Number 1, the paperwork. So you're at the clinic and all of these providers come back into the room and they sit down. They give you a diagnosis of autism. They hand you a mound of paperwork about this thick with reading materials, a to-do list about this long, and then they just leave because that's their job. Their job's done, and now you're the parent and you're left to navigate it. So how do you go about navigating it all? If I could go back in time, one of the first things that I would do to grab a notebook. I'm talking like go to the dollar store, buy a dollar store notebook. So if you're anything like me, you're going to try to go through all of the paperwork, try to find your own research, and try to gather all the information you can about autism to just become an expert overnight. However, from experience, this is just going to overwhelm you. This is a big task. You just entered into a whole new world that you know nothing about. It's okay to educate yourself, but I would educate yourself line upon line. Open up your notebook and allow yourself to cover or learn about one topic a week. So I want you to sit down, make a to-do list of all the things that you need to do, and then one project a week. When we got our diagnosis, the therapist said that our children needed ABA, they needed speech, they needed OT, they would benefit from feeding therapy and social groups, as well as entering the early childhood. I went and I made all those phone calls that week. I was on the phone all week long. I was on the phone with insurance all week long. That's all I did. I didn't do anything else. That's very overwhelming. If I was just now receiving my diagnosis, I'd get out my notebook. I'd look at my checklist and think, okay, what project am I going to work on this week? Say speech therapy is at the top. So then I'd open up my notebook. I write speech therapy at the top. I would just dive into speech therapy, whether that be, okay, this week I'm going to learn exactly what speech therapy is and how that affects my child. It could be I'm going to find a speech therapist in my area or see what other resources are available for speech. I can learn everything that I want to, but it needs to be about speech therapy because that's my project this week. That's the first thing that I would do. Number 2, the appointments. After you get your diagnosis, there's going to be 17 million appointments that you're going to have to schedule. And just like tackling the paperwork and just like learning line upon line with the paperwork, I think that if I could go back in time, I would also do this with appointments. My 8-year-old lives off of pediatric shakes. He eats no solid food at this time. And that was the case when he got his diagnosis when he was 2 years old. So for him, feeding therapy was probably the most important thing for us when he first got his diagnosis. My 6-year-old does not speak. For him, the first thing I would prioritize is speech therapy. So for Vinny, I would look for a feeding therapist. I would see what things I have in my area, and if there's nothing in my area, then I would go further than that. Okay, if I need to travel, how am I going to travel? Where can I travel? What is available? What kind of therapists are available? Can someone come into my home? Do I need to go to a clinic? There's so much to learn about each therapy. One of the things I highly recommend is start with one therapy at a time, tackle that, and then move on to the next. A side note also about therapies and about making appointments. Waitlist for anything that you're going to do with your child who's now on the autism spectrum. There's going to be a wait list. Just always assume that there's going to be a wait list. Say again, I'm trying to learn all about speech therapy, or I'm trying to figure out how to fit speech therapy into our schedule this week. Let's say I call 5 different places and there's 4 different wait lists. I would still get on the wait list. First of all, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. They might call you and have an opening tomorrow. Second of all, let's say I pick the only place that is available and I decide that that therapy or that therapist is not correct for my child. Then you're still on the wait list someplace else. Even if you don't take that spot, if there's a wait list, I would always get put on the wait list, especially in the beginning, because you're still trying to figure out your groove. You're still trying to figure out if in-home is better for you and your family, if going to a clinic is better for you and your family, if once a week is better for you and your family, or if the 3 or 4 times a week that they do recommend is actually what you and your child need. The third thing I wish I knew before receiving an autism diagnosis is learning how to take the lead. Your child has just been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Let's say that you're like me and you come from a neurotypical family. You know nothing about autism. You're starting from scratch. If that's the case, if that sounds like you, there's a lot of things that you're learning now that you know nothing about. So you're going to turn to the experts. You're going to turn to those people that gave you that diagnosis and just lean and eat up all of the information that they gave you. However, you know your child better than anyone. You know your child better than any professional or any therapist that's going to come into your home. They are going to be able to give you the information and the tools that you need to help guide your child and provide them with the best life that they can have. However, you are going to know what's going to work best for your child because you know that. When my children first got diagnosed, I signed them up for ABA, I signed them up for OT, for speech, for feeding therapy, for social group. I put them into the special education program at my school district because that's what the experts told me to do, and I had no idea what I was doing. Throw them into all these therapies, just thinking that is what was going to be best for my children. And for some people, this is what's best for their children, and that works great. So if that works, then keep doing that. However, doing that same routine for about 2 years, the children had all come down sick. It was like that ripple effect in our home. One child gets sick, another child gets sick. So for 2 weeks, they had inconsistent therapy and they didn't go to school, I believe, for a whole week because of the sickness that was going around the house. After those 2 weeks, I remember sitting down on the couch. My children were playing and they were just self-regulating so much better because they didn't have 50 plus hours of work to do a week. Looking at my children and thinking, this is not working. So for my family time is a major priority. It's something that I grew up with. Family comes first before anything else. And that's something that I loved and I really wanted to show my children. And unfortunately, with that many hours of therapy a week, I didn't feel like that was happening. For us, the best thing that I could do for my children is to cut back on our therapy hours. We did also eventually pull them out of the public school system and we now homeschool, which also obviously guaranteed that we had extra family time in our home. I made sure that I found therapists that were not only going to teach my children, but were going to teach me and educate me so that I could actually give my children therapy 24/7, 365. You are in charge and you need to find what's going to work best for your therapy hours, the exact fit that you need for your family. But for us, it wasn't the case. So I needed to take the lead. Number 4, getting organized. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I have therapy binders. And this is something that I wish that I would have started soon. Each of my kids have a therapy binder. On the front of it, it says our therapy journey. And in there is really just tabs. I have a tab for OT, a tab for speech, and then we homeschool. So I also have a homeschooling tab. And then I have a tab for their developmental milestones. So our binders has 5 different tabs. I love having that therapy notebook. So when we go to OT and they give us our quarterly evals, I can bring that home. I like to read through it, highlight it, look at what their goals are, and then I add them to our school day, or you could add them to your day after the kids get home if they go to public school. I add all those things to our day and then I can just file it away in our therapy binder. Let's say it's a couple weeks down the road and I lost whatever paper I was working on, or I realized we have a little extra time here, or they're struggling with this, maybe they addressed eval and I just didn't see it, then I can go to my therapy binder, I can pull out that eval and I can look at it and then add whatever I need to our day. I can either write on the evaluation what goals I need to address in our next eval or what goals we need to add at home because they were already maybe addressed in the eval and I just forgot to write them down. It's a great place to just stay organized. You're going to get a lot of paperwork. At the beginning, you get a lot of paperwork and you're going to continue to get a lot of paperwork during your therapy journey. Data is very important in there, and it's important for you now as their parent to be able to keep track of all that and see where they're having growth. The other reason that I really love therapy binders is, for me, let's say I'm feeling super defeated. I feel like we didn't have a productive homeschool day. I feel like we just are not meeting any of our goals. We've had meltdown after meltdown. I'm able to go pull that therapy binder from our cabinet, open it up and see, oh, you know what? We're doing this now and we weren't 6 months ago. Oh, we're doing this now and we weren't 6 months ago. This used to be a trigger, but it's really not anymore. It's a really good way to keep myself accountable and make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do at home. It's a good reminder that we are doing things at home. And so even on those tough days, I can remember why we're doing what we're doing. In the process, if you've made it this far in the video, let me know what your preference would be. If you would rather have a PDF download on my Teachers Pay Teachers store, if you would like to have a bound copy or something you could buy off of Amazon, or if we could figure it out, and if I have any tech friends, let me know, a app of some sort to be able to use on our phone to be able to have all the time. That would be absolutely amazing. So make sure to comment your favorite one down below. And at number 5, you cannot pour from an empty cup. As cliche as that sounds, it's so true. I love my children and I love that we have gotten to experience every little milestone together. There's not much that we miss when you have developmentally delayed children. You get to celebrate every milestone, and I love that. It is also exhausting to try to work full time and be able to keep track of all of these therapies and their milestones and their grades and keep track of all of this while running on maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep, because our children also don't sleep very well, right? It's hard and it's exhausting. And so one of the most important and most cliche things that we need to do as parents with special needs children is to fill our own. Because on maternity leave, we had a little bit more free time because I was not working full time. Several different times I felt very overwhelmed. I have 4 children, and at that time we had a newborn on top of my 2-year-old and my 2 children with special needs. So I was just feeling a little overwhelmed, pretty free. Just run to the thrift store for like an hour, and he would keep track of all 4 kids because he's an absolute saint. And that's just something simple that I could just go to the flea market and I just walk around and I get to just hear myself think for an hour. Now that I'm back to work full time, he's working full time, and we have all these other projects that we're trying to work on, there's not a whole lot of time for me to leave for even an hour a week and go to the thrift store. I've had to readjust and figure out different ways to fill my cup. I love those little shower steamers. I throw them in the shower. I have my little sugar scrub, and I take an extra long shower on days that I'm feeling like that. Really, I feel like rejuvenated after I take that 30-minute shower. And so for me, that's something that I have done that's really helped my self-care. Your mental health matters too. It's okay to give, but don't lose yourself. Find something that is going to help you remember who you are. Remember the things that you like. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I go to the thrift store. I bake something from scratch. I sit down and make a video or sit down and make a podcast. And those are things that I have found to fill my own cup. And you just need to find what works best for you. And then being self-aware and knowing, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today. Maybe I snapped a little bit too much at my kiddos today. I need to do something for me. And that's okay to take that time. It's going to be best for you, and it's going to be what's best for your children. The transition that you have to make after receiving an autism diagnosis is never going to be an easy one. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And something that I just wish that I could have known in the beginning is that you don't need to take all that information in all at once. You can take it in little by little, because really you're going to only learn it little by little. So you're just going to overwhelm yourself by taking in all that information and trying to file it away in your brain. You're going to do better if you open up one filing cabinet, fill it with as much as you can, close it, and then move on to the next. Just my little plug, if you have learned something or found something valuable from this video, please consider giving it a like. If you found a couple things or felt that you needed to share it with a friend, please consider giving me a follow. It's something that will allow me to continue to being able to make these videos and hopefully being able to continue to help other families. And stay tuned next week for my episode on a dad's perspective. If you're new here, you can check out last week's episode of our story and our work. Stay strong out there.